And welcome to the Defending Democracy Together, a Safer Memphis for All webinar. I'm Deidre Malone. I'm the first vice president of the NAACP Memphis Branch and the president of the National Women's Political Caucus. I, along with Vicki Terry, our executive director for the NAACP Memphis Branch, will moderate this discussion. Our guest today is Memphis Mayor Paul Young and Memphis Police Chief C.J. Davis. Our members and members of our coalition partners have concerns, Mayor and Chief Davis, about the occupation and militarization of Memphis. Mayor Young, how are you feeling about the direction of the Memphis Safe Task Force? How is it going a little over a week in?
Well, I think it's going okay. I mean, the teams have been meeting a lot. A lot of dialogue has been happening with MPD, which is positive. One of the things we wanted to do with this coming into our community is make sure that the efforts align with the things that we have already been doing to push crime down. We've had good success over the past 22 months or so that we've been in office. But as everybody knows, we still need more crime reduction in our community. And so we wanted some of those strategies, things like our multi-agency gang unit, our organized crime unit, our fugitive task force. We just did Operation Rolling Thunder earlier this summer, where we have been very successful in identifying the drivers of violent crime in our community. And so what we want to do and continue to do is work with this task force to keep it focused on those drivers of violent crime. And I think the dialogues that we've been having, even just this week, I think are pushing us towards that goal.
Vicki?
Hey, Chief Davis, this is like a two-parter, so let me know if I need to go back for you. The first part is, how do you think things are going from your perspective? You know, we continue to hear the Trump administration touting arrest numbers. Are they only the federal law enforcement numbers, or do they include MPD as well?
Chief, you're muted, Chief.
Okay, I'm so sorry for that. Thank you, Vicki, for that question. Thank you both for convening this session today. That's a good question, because we've all, heard different numbers through different, sources, whether it's on social media or whether it's in official forums. What we don't want is people to get confused about the numbers. So I'm going to try to simplify it. The Memphis Police Department, they work every day to reduce crime. And I have to say that, the numbers that our officers put out, and it's not a numbers game for us, if you will. It is, how do we work to make Memphis safe? How do we focus where the data shows that we have criminal activity? That's where we go. So the numbers that we generate every day, and even during this surge, we're keeping track of that separately. And the numbers that this task force is tabulating is sort of a hodgepodge of both. You got Memphis police cases, and then you have some other activity by some of our federal partners where Memphis police officers aren't even involved in that activity. So the numbers that you see that's coming out of DC or coming out of, reports here about the task force, that's a combination of all of the 13 to 20 agencies and MPD, which is a very, very large part of some of this work.
So, Chief, I want to follow up on that question. I know you and the mayor have continuously said that, the data shows that violent crime is down in Memphis. But as you know, perception is reality in our communities. With all of these federal law enforcement officers in Memphis or headed to Memphis, what is MPD in the city doing to help residents understand where we are when it comes to the reduction in violent crime here in our community?
So we've tried to create various ways to communicate to our community members. The mayor has, hosted a number of town hall meetings. We try to be on news various news stations on a regular basis to communicate what the facts are. What we're sending out are facts, and the facts say that crime has reduced by 23, close to 24% in the last, several months, which is huge. When I'm out, I was out today, people come to me and they are saying, we can feel the difference. Is it where we want it to be yet? No, it is not where we want it to be. We want to continue to do the work and reduce crime in a way where people, do feel it, in all communities, not just in some communities, in all of our communities. But as you say, perception is reality. And what we are hoping is that sometimes our media, if you got a bad story or somebody got shot, let's not show it for 6 days in a row. That gives people the impression that, something else is happening again and again and again. And so, our shootings have slowed down. Our homicides have slowed down. Our vehicle thefts are almost 50% lower than they were last year or year before last, this time. And so we're continuing to move in that direction, but we do need federal support. We've asked for federal support in the past. We didn't ask for it in such large numbers, but it's here, and the mayor and I have worked with these teams to try to make sure that during this time is working for Memphis, is doing and accomplishing some things as it relates to violent crime that works for Memphis.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Vicki?
Okay, Marianne, this is for you. President Trump started in Washington, D.C., and then Los Angeles. Now he's looking at Portland, Oregon, and now Chicago. The governor of Illinois and mayor of Chicago are threatening litigation. Was that something that the city of Memphis thought about exploring?
Well, we definitely had our attorneys look at it, but as I said when we started this, Memphis is different than LA and Chicago or Portland in that the governor of Tennessee and the president of the United States made the decision to bring the National Guard and the federal resources to the city of Memphis. And so my posture quickly shifted from fighting against it coming to how do we ensure that when it comes, it works for our community. And I think for some, they wanted to hear more of why I didn't want it to come. But as a leader, I think it's important that I shift our community to thinking about how do we receive it such that it's a benefit to our community and minimize any negative impact. And that's what our team has been working to do over the past couple of weeks.
Thank you, Mayor. So just the NAACP Memphis Branch put out a survey with 3 small questions. We want to run those by you. We had a little under 100 people respond to the survey. And the first question was, do you approve or disapprove of the National Guard being deployed in your community? And I want to say probably 75% strongly disapproved, and then some somewhat approved. What are your thoughts about that, either one of you?
I mean, I think that there are opinions across the board. As mayor, I hear from a lot of constituents, and I think that all people in our community feel a desire to feel safer. They want safety. They want to see less people victimized in our community. The question is, how do we get there? And while I know there are a number of people that don't support the National Guard, there are a number of people that do. And those that do are supporting it because they want to see safety in their community. And so my goal as mayor is take the resources that we have and find a way to get the people the safety that they deserve. We've done a good job in reducing crime, but the reality is that it's still too high. It's still way too many victims. We had a church with 300 to 500 families that met with Chief Davis just a couple of weeks ago, and they were all families that were mourning the loss of someone for whom they haven't found the person that committed the crime. And there is so much trauma in our community that is born out of the violence that we've seen in our communities. And so as we grapple with the role and responsibilities of the National Guard versus the federal resources, I think that it's really important that we think long-term of how do we address the mental health, how do we address the trauma for the individuals that have been experiencing it in our community for far too long.
Yeah, and I'll segue to something the mayor said about, some of the homicide victims. Quite frankly, the Memphis Police Department, we don't have the amount of resources that we really would love to have to just throw at all of the various cold cases and homicide warrants and other types of warrants that are just out there that, sometimes we need that extra support. And so what we've done, and to be clear, I think the mayor was clear in the very beginning, and we all were clear. We didn't feel like it was necessary. However, now that it's here in our face, how do we use some of these resources? So some of the federal analysts, over 30 federal analysts are here. We're asking all of these smart people who know how to find folks, whether they're in the city of Memphis or in other states, we need you working on homicide warrants so that we can go after people and we can bring peace and some type of justice to some of the families who are waiting to see if we're going to be able to catch folks. Also, we're utilizing, some of these individuals that are here from the federal level to help us identify other violent criminals that are still at large that continue to commit violent acts in our city. We have an opportunity with the numbers to really be able to put a dent in some of the hundreds of outstanding warrants that are out there. And we're really trying to direct, the activity where it benefits and it is true to reducing crime in the city and reducing violence in the city, as opposed to just saying, oh, it's happening and, they'll be gone, in a few weeks. We're trying to use them to our benefit.
Okay. And our second question that we asked in the survey was, how do you believe the deployment of the National Guard in your community affects safety and trust? And we had there were two things that they responded to. It says significantly undermines safety and trust. A lot of the people responded to that. They thought it, undermines the safety and trust. And then there were some that said it somewhat undermines safety and trust. So, Chief, what do you think about that?
Well, I think the guard was never asked. Law enforcement support was the ask, and it always has been. How do we get federal law enforcement support? From a public safety standpoint, we're trying to utilize guard personnel in non-enforcement types of capacities so it does not feel like there's this over militarization in our communities, in our neighborhoods. And that's not where we're directing those resources either. So, we're hoping to utilize, some of our guard personnel, helping to direct traffic, helping to be visible in retail corridors, and all of these other things. DC, there was a lot of chatter about checkpoints in DC, all of the other things that happen in DC. Well, DC is under a federal umbrella, a federal authority. Their police department is under the federal, auspices. However, here in Memphis, our guard are here and have been deployed by the state. We are not utilizing them to do checkpoints or anything like that. So we want to really sort of, dispel some of the myths and the rumors of what people think is going to happen, with our servicemen and women.
Okay.
And the final question is, instead of deploying the National Guard into communities, what issues do you believe the administration should prioritize addressing? And the top three, and there were like 7 options: affordable housing and economic opportunities, education and youth programs, and then criminal justice reform. What are your thoughts about that, Mayor?
I would echo the sentiments. I mean, I didn't know what all the options were. I was going to mention housing. I think that is really something we need a deep emphasis on in our community. I think mental health, which I talked about earlier. I think the trauma that families have experienced whether it's due to violence that they have seen in their communities or other situations. I think that is something that will help naturally reduce crime in our community by having more healing for those families and individuals. And then economic opportunities and investment in our youth and young people. I think those are the things that are going to bring long-term safety and vibrancy and enhance the quality of life in our community.
Thank you, Mayor. Vicky, let's go to
Okay.
the Q and A's. You want to
Okay,
take
yeah.
one?
Okay, this one, either one of, I guess this might be for you, Chief. Are the numbers Bundy is stating accurate? And do they include MPD? That might have been kind of in one of the questions we asked you already.
Yeah.
And are they much different from what we experience just every day?
We have a very hard working police department. I'm just gonna say that. And they
Mhm.
have high productivity when it comes to reducing, serious crimes. And as I mentioned earlier, any numbers that are coming out about the task force, the Memphis Safe Task Force, there's a large contingency of Memphis police officers who are involved in those activities. So it is a combination of both.
Okay.
So here's another question. What goal are we trying to hit in regards to crime reduction? If we hit that goal, will the federal agents and National Guard leave Memphis?
Well, I mean, I don't know that there's a specific goal. I think their stated goal is to end crime, and I think that's going to be hard to actually end it altogether. And so there's no specific target. They have not given a specific date for how long they will be here. We know in DC they were there for 30, 35 days before they reduced their presence. They're still there, but they dramatically reduced their presence, and so we don't have a timeline right now.
Okay, another question, it says, it appears that most of the support from the feds have been from traffic stops. How do traffic stops help support finding homicide warrants?
So
I'll go ahead, Chief.
yeah, I was just gonna say traffic stops are just a component of the work. And I think that might be the visible component that people see the most, because on the interstates, you see the Tennessee Highway Patrol, you see a lot of traffic activity. Some of that work really is to sort of help calm, and we've asked for Tennessee Highway Patrol to come to Memphis for a long time. Anytime you have a city that's leading in traffic fatalities, and of course, we're moving down off of that list, which is good, but that is from trying to calm the traffic and slow people down and deal with reckless driving. So the traffic component is just one piece of what is going on. We also have a warrant detail, violent crime warrant details. You may not see that in the news. You may not feel that. That could be at 2 o'clock in the morning. So, obviously what you see every day is some of the traffic activity, but there are hundreds of other people that are, doing other types of work, whether it's investigative work, whether it's analysis, whether it's dealing with nuisance businesses. They're even starting to look at nuisance properties that the city is needing some support and some help on, finding owners that have been absent, to address, areas that there has been historically crime problems. So there's a combination of work that's happening from different entities in the city.
So Mayor Young and Chief Davis, considering the DOJ findings and the presence of federal agencies, how are you ensuring that enhanced policing and outside forces do not undermine the rights and safeties of our residents? Specifically, what measures will you take to hold these agencies accountable, specifically if you can, and protect communities, especially our youth, immigrant, and refugee populations, if there are any overreach?
Yeah, I will say that when those instances have been brought to our attention, we take those to the task force. The lead of that task force is the head of the U.S. Marshal Service, Gaddy Serralta. On the ground, he has an individual, Tyrese Miller, who's the head of the U.S. Marshals in Memphis. So anytime there are those instances relative to federal entities, that gets reported to them and they address it. With regards to our officers and Memphis Police Department, they still abide by all of our policies and procedures. And it's something that they understand, that Chief Davis has made clear. And we're going to continue to abide by those because we want to continue to work to build more trust between our police department and the community. And it's a goal that we have always had and one we will continue to work towards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just piggyback off of that. Deirdre, the conversations and the briefings that we've had with our officers, we wanted them to know, we've had special briefings so that they understood that we will not deviate from the work that we have continuously done by policy and procedure. Not only will we continue to do that work, but it's up to them to also be a part of documenting anything they see, intercepting anything they see, and ensuring that we can notify federal supervisors. I've had those conversations too with the federal officials. How do we feel complaints, to you, and how are those complaints being dealt with? And they have individuals in the Joint Operations Center that will be responding to anything that's involving a federal agent.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor Vicky.
Okay, another question, someone said, how do you report federal agents if you think they are doing something that's unlawful? And she said that sometimes that she's heard that they have shown up on private property without warrants. And how do they report these incidents? Is there a number or anything that, citizens can call to report things that they feel like are unlawful?
I think we've set up something on the city's website. If I remember correctly, I think our communications section is trying to put together, if it's not already launched, a dashboard, just informational dashboard, and also numbers that can be called, because what we're hoping to do is make sure that any incident that a community member or citizen feels needs to be reported, if they know for a fact that it is a federal agent or one of our people that are here working during this task force, that there is a direct number. They have officials, they have military, not just with the federal agents, but they have JAG officers, which are attorneys who are actually working to help vet any types of complaints or incidents that might occur in our city. If they can't reach anybody, they can always call the Memphis Police Department just to make sure that something is documented and we get it to them. But the numbers and the information, we would like for them to be responsible in that vein to respond quickly to citizens who have something to report about any incident that has occurred.
And
I would
Chief,
just to add to Chief Davis's point, the city did establish a website where we have an FAQ with a lot of that information. It's memphistn.gov/safe and clean.
Thank you, Mayor. That's what I was gonna say. We have that on the NAACP Memphis website, a link to. So you can, our viewers, you can go to the city website, but we also share the City of Memphis's link on the NAACP website. And then this is gonna be our final question as we wrap up. How are you ensuring the safety of our immigrant neighbors and communities? There is an intense fear that people are being taken from their families and sent to detention centers without any way for people to know their whereabouts.
Yeah, well, as you know, the immigration officials that we've talked to, they do have jurisdiction to be able to take someone in if they do encounter them without proper documentation. One of the things that we have really worked with them to do is try and focus the work of this effort on violent crime and really engage this task force in executing warrants and doing the things that are really going to help us drive down violent crime. And we certainly want all of the residents of our community to feel protected. And so it's one of those things that we're trying to work through on a daily basis when it comes to identifying how to ensure that all of our residents feel protected. I do understand that there's a significant fear in the communities. I think the most important thing is ensuring that your family, friends, everybody's doing the right things and not committing crimes, because anybody that does engage in any criminal activity, the likelihood of getting caught is very high, which we like. We want to make sure we're getting those that are committing crimes off the streets. And our goal is to do everything we can to keep the task force focused on that specific goal.
Okay. And so final thoughts, Mayor and Chief Davis, are there any final thoughts before we wrap up this webinar?
Well, I'll just say thank you to the NAACP for hosting this. I think this is really important to have direct conversation. This is an important time for our community. And I know that there are a lot of fears, a lot of concerns, and my goal as mayor is to make sure that we're navigating this thing in a way where we as a community are stronger on the other side.
Yeah, and I would agree. Again, I think this is a great opportunity to really just kind of clarify some of the myths and that are out about what will happen in the city. We are trying to be as engaged as possible so that we can sort of control as much as we can as it relates to this deployment. It's sort of like the lemonade saying, if you handed lemons, we're gonna make some good lemonade out of it the best we can. We know there are concerns out there, but we're trying to navigate as much as possible. And the Memphis Police Department is still committed to reducing violent crime in our city. That's where our focus is. It hasn't changed, and we won't be deviating from our normal mode of operation every day.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief. This is the first of several of our town hall meetings we will have as a part of the Defending Democracy Together coalition. Vicki, you want to close it out?
Yes. Again, thank you, Chief and Mayor Young. We want all of our listeners, if you have questions or need answers, just visit the NAACP Memphis.org website to view the resources that the city of Memphis has and our partners have doing the deployment in Memphis. And I just want to say thank you all for attending. And if the number is also on the website, Dee, I don't know if you have that number in front of you, but someone asked, but it is on the website. And if you would just go to the website again, NAACPMemphis.org. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.